What if one man's success could actually be a hidden threat to humanity's future? We're about to dive into a fascinating new study that connects one of history's most legendary conquerors to a potential time bomb that could be hiding in our DNA. Just look at this number, 16 million. That's the estimated number of men alive today, right now, across a huge chunk of Asia, who could be direct descendants of just one guy, Genghis Khan. I mean, his reproductive success was so off the charts that his Y chromosome basically left this massive footprint on our entire species. And hey, don't think for a second this is just some dusty old history lesson. Nope. We see it today with so-called super donors who fathered hundreds, sometimes even thousands of kids. So yeah, this pattern is still very much a thing. And it has a name, a pretty cool one actually. Scientists call it the Genghis Khan effect. So that's gotta make you wonder, right? Is having these hyper-successful individuals a good thing for humanity? A way to pass on the best genes? Or is it actually more like a hidden time bomb, just ticking away in our DNA? Well, that's the big question we're going to dig into. Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we need to be clear on what we're actually talking about here. All right, so what exactly is the Genghis Khan effect? Put simply, it's when a tiny group of people end up having a huge number of kids, while pretty much everyone else has very few or even none at all. The scientific term for this imbalance is extreme reproductive inequality. Now, to figure out what this all really means for us, some researchers did something pretty awesome. They ran this wild digital experiment. They basically built two different versions of humanity inside a computer and set them up to compete just to see which one would last longer. So, on one side, you've got the Genghis Khan world. This is where a handful of individuals totally dominate the gene pool, having tons of kids. And on the other side, you've got a much more balanced world, maybe a monogamy model, you could call it, where pretty much everyone has a more equal shot at reproducing. It's basically superstars versus equals. So they had these two models ready to go, and then they hit play on what was essentially a high-stakes race against extinction, all to see which of these paths gives our species a better shot at a long-term future. And here's the game plan. Step 1, they built a digital world with 8 billion people. Step 2, they let these digital humans reproduce for 12,000 generations, which, by the way, is pretty much the entire history of Homo sapiens, using either the unequal Genghis Khan rules or the more balanced ones. All along, they were watching one thing super closely: genetic diversity. And they kept watching until the population finally crashed. So, what do we mean by a crash? We're not talking about running out of food or resources here. In this digital world, a crash happens when the genetic diversity, the all-important variety of genes in the population, drops below a critical 10%. That's the point of no return. It's a genetic bottleneck that leaves a species incredibly vulnerable to, well, just about anything. So, here's the million-dollar question. Which society makes it longer? The one with the reproductive superstars or the one where things are more balanced? Well, the results came in, and they were pretty dramatic. And they point to a very, very clear answer. Okay, take a look at this graph because it really tells the whole story. It's kind of shocking. Each of these lines is one of those digital societies. See those steep blue lines dropping down at the bottom? That's the Genghis Khan world, the one with the most inequality. Look how fast they plummet. That's genetic diversity just vanishing. Now look at the red lines up top. See how much slower their decline is? Those are the balanced societies. The takeaway here is crystal clear. The more inequality you have, the faster your species' genetic toolkit just evaporates. And why is that such a big deal? Well, think of genetic diversity as our species' ultimate insurance policy. It's the toolbox we use to adapt to anything the universe throws at us. A new pandemic, a crazy climate shift, you name it. If everyone starts to become too genetically similar, our ability to adapt, to evolve, to survive, it just craters. So how long did that unequal society last before it hit that crash point? The simulation says about 4,000 generations. That's the lifespan you get under the Genghis Khan effect. And the balanced one? It kept going for around 9,000 generations. Yeah, more than twice as long. Let that sink in. The bottom line is this. A world dominated by a few reproductive superstars doesn't just shorten our species' survival timeline. It cuts it by more than half. This brings us to the really big, profound ideas behind this whole thing. So what are the big takeaways from this digital race against extinction? So here's why all of this really matters. This Genghis Khan effect isn't just some weird thing from history class. It's a real force that actively wears down our species' ability to bounce back. It basically hits the fast-forward button on losing valuable genes, which puts us at risk of something called a mutational meltdown. That's when bad mutations pile up way faster than we can get rid of them. And what this simulation really suggests is that maybe our social structures, things like monogamy, aren't just cultural quirks. They might actually be critical survival strategies. And the author of the study leaves us with a really powerful, kind of provocative thought. The quote is, "Given that success often results from a combination of talent and luck, and extreme success requires substantial luck, one could argue that human evolution has been more about the survival of the luckiest rather than strictly the survival of the fittest." I mean, think about that. We always hear survival of the fittest, but when you see these insane cases of success, how much of it is about being fit, and how much is just being in the right place at the right time? So the study's core message is pretty clear. The future of our species is just way too important to leave up to chance, to a genetic lottery. This kind of unchecked inequality, whether it's from a conqueror thousands of years ago or a superdonor today, is a huge gamble. And this research suggests it's a gamble we just can't afford to lose. Which really leaves us with one last thing to think about. When you look at human history, and when you think about our future, are we really seeing this survival of the fittest? Or are we all just the children of the luckiest?